Hello and welcome to episode 80 of the Give Me a Crown Knitting, Spinning and Bits and Pieces podcast. Today is Saturday the 7th of April 2018 and my name's Nina, also known as Give Me a Crown across the internet. I'm coming to you from the central tablelands of the Central West in New South Wales in Australia, and I want to say a big thank you to returning viewers for putting up with my tardiness with getting a new podcast out. And a big hello if you're a new viewer. I will leave the ruminations about why it's taken so long to get another podcast episode recorded towards the end, because I've got a lot to share with you, and I've got so much to share that if I skim over something and you want more information, then please pop a comment down below in YouTube or pop by the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group and I'll be happy to share more information. Before I get into all of the things that I've been working on recently, I just wanted to mention that I am going to be going to the Bendigo Australian Sheep and Wool Show this year in July, so I'm sure that I will be recording more before then and letting you know what my plans are at this point in time. I've got my accommodation sorted and that's about it. So I don't even have tickets for the show yet, so I will sort that out, but I'm looking forward to going along and hopefully meeting a few of you out there, and of course looking at all the amazing yarn and fibre that they have. I have a few finished objects, and the first of which I'm wearing, and this is the Bruntsfield vest by Ysolda Teague, and it's colourwork. It would normally be knit in wool, but I decided to give myself the challenge of knitting some colourwork with alpaca. And alpaca is not traditionally used for colour work because it's not as sticky as wool, and also alpaca can behave in quite different ways to wool, but I wanted to give it a whirl. I know that this particular alpaca yarn the colours are amazing, and it's from Adagio Mills in Orange, New South Wales, which is about 45 minutes drive from here, so very local to me, and I've used their yarn before, absolutely loved it, and I thought that it was worth giving it a shot. So I think that the colourwork has come out beautifully. I'll pop some pictures up on screen of some of the sort of full-length photos because it's hard to get everything in screen. But I had a few learnings during this project. So I got to learn steeking. I did my first steeks. This whole vest is knit in the round, and the pattern had great information about sort of going through that. It's been a while now, so I have a feeling I had to go and reference a few things to make sure that I was doing it okay, and I had the fear that because I was using alpaca that my steeks wouldn't work. They seem to be holding after I washed it. The steek seemed to be staying in place, so I'm pretty confident it's going to be okay, but I think once I start wearing it more, I'll get a better sense of whether my stitches will pop or not. I will definitely be keeping an eye on it, and I will put some reinforcements, some ribbon on the inside if I need to. The weather here has remained very summerish, so we're still in sort of 30 degrees Celsius days, and I haven't sort of needed to wear it yet, but I will definitely be wearing it this winter because it's going to be super cozy. The local rooster is crowing out there again, so apologies if you can hear that. My big mistake was that I didn't think to measure the body before I split for the armholes. So there's a steek that happens for the armholes, and I didn't measure the length of it. When I had already sort of finished everything up, I decided to measure, and pre-blocking it was already 3.5 inches longer in the body than what it should have been, and after blocking it grew another 1.5 inches. So overall I had 5 inches of extra length than what the pattern sort of measurements were, and that's down to the fact that I was using alpaca, which tends to drop a bit, but at 1.5 inches dropping isn't much, but the 3.5 inches that it had already gained during my knitting was just down to my gauge. So it's a reminder to me to, as I'm knitting, just check my measurements. Because it was steeked, so this was all sort of knit into a kind of a tube, I couldn't try it on. So if I'd have tried it on, or even if I'd have held it up to me and really thought about it, I would have noticed that it was looking a bit long. So at the moment I feel like it's not hitting my hips. It's not even hitting my hips, it's going past my bum. It's not hitting at a very flattering place. So I am thinking about whether I should cut out a few of the motifs on the hem, or whether I just put up with it. So I put some photographs up on Instagram, and people were suggesting that it's just going to keep my bum warm, and that is very true. But at the moment it just seems like something that I will probably only wear at home, whereas I was hoping for it to be something that I will wear out. But again, no fault of the pattern or of the yarn, it's just me not thinking as I was knitting because I was having so much fun with it. I think I'm just going to see how it goes. I am currently on a little bit of a health kick, just trying to lose a few kilos, just because I've realised that living out here I'm not getting the exercise that I used to when I was living in Sydney, and I just want to just get a little bit healthier, so that might actually help me feel like it's fitting me a bit better, where it's currently reaching down to. So we'll see. For the time being I'm just going to leave it, and I'll see whether it grows on me. It is a bit wide up the top. I think I probably could have gone down one size. I'm not too sure. I haven't gone back and looked at the sort of schematics, but it does feel a little bit on the wide side. But I think for what I need it for keeping me warm in winter, that's absolutely fine. And it definitely does feel warm considering it's a warm day out here. So we'll see how long I can keep wearing it. But I'm definitely keen to knit this one again. I am thinking about using a wool yarn this time, and that should be a little bit more manageable as to the size and whatnot. So it's definitely on the cards. I think I would probably go with something with the browns and the greys, but probably with just one little colour pop. So we'll see. That might happen at some point. My next finished objects are two Voodoo You Love Me dolls by Susan Claudine. I don't have them anymore. They have gone off to my nieces who requested them. I decided to knit these ones with 1.5mm needles, just to sort of see what the difference would be in comparison to the one that I knit with, I think it was a 2mm or 2.25, 2mm I think. So the 1.5mm turned out amazing. I was really happy with the gauge that I got, and they are visibly a little bit smaller than the one that I had knit for myself. I made a couple of modifications just to the neck part of the pattern, just because I didn't want the necks to be quite so floppy, because at 1.5mm size those necks would have been absolutely tiny, so I made them just a little bit bigger. For the yarns, I used Trelawney on Fluffy Sock by Dragon Horde Yarn for the lighter coloured one, and for the aqua coloured one I used a Renanoli sock mini that I had, and absolutely loved working with both the yarns. They knit up a treat, and I would definitely use them again for little toys with 1.5mm needles. It's a fun pattern, and I think that after 3 I won't knit it again anytime soon, just because it is a bit fiddly, but I'm kind of itching to get myself a larger version, so I might need to see if I can either double up on some DK yarns or find a nice worsted that I could knit up one for myself at some point. But for the time being I'll just put that pattern to rest. But I definitely recommend it if you're looking to make a little fun cute little toy. My next finished object are my Gladys Socks. This is a free pattern by General Hog Buffer, and it looks really intricate, but it's actually just it's knits and purls and a few simple sock techniques, and I think they're just incredible. Really, really just stunning how it sort of creates these patterns, and just a really well thought out pattern and wonderful. And I would, if it was a paid pattern, I would definitely buy it, but it's free and a lot of fun. I will definitely be knitting these again. Once I sort of got past the sort of top section, like the ribbing's easy to remember, this section actually doesn't require too much thought, and once you get a little bit into the sock, it becomes very memorizable. So it's sort of on autopilot there. You do the heel and the heel turn, and then a little bit of thinking around here, and then autopilot again. This is a repetition of that, and then the toe, and voila, you've got some socks. I cast these on for the Little Bobbins Knits Christmas Eve cast on. Got one done in a few days. The other one was a bit of travel knitting and whatnot, and sort of lingered for a very long time, but they're finally done. They are a present for my mum. They were meant to be for her birthday in February. That didn't happen, so I think these can wait until next Christmas, but I think they turned out great. The yarn is from Daydream Yarns, and it's the Town Sock base in the Walking on Sunshine colourway, and I think yellow socks are just amazing. Really, really, they just scream happiness, so I think I might need to be getting myself some yellow socks at some point, because I would love looking down at my feet and seeing such a happy colour on my feet, especially when it's cold. So they're those, and I felt really bad because my mum actually gave me some socks before I'd finished these. So I'll just quickly show. She's been on a sock kick, and this is one pair that she gave me, and I think she's been using I think it's a 6-ply, so like a sport weight yarn, and I think she's sort of discovered Pinterest and has been scouring Pinterest and a little bit of Ravelry and whatnot, and finding various patterns and doing them. So I don't know whether this one is one that she sort of cobbled together from various bits, or whether it was a full pattern. I have a feeling she cobbled it together. It's got a fun sort of stretchy section at the ankle, and then I guess I can fold that down as well. She wants my feet to stay warm this winter. I think they're absolutely stunning, and love the colours, of course, because there's greys. So that's one pair, and another pair that she knit for me are these. So these are, she found a picture on Pinterest, and I don't think that the full pattern was sort of written up there, but people have sort of charted out the various motifs in various places. So my mum was sort of referencing the photo and then putting it together and trying to count pixels and well, she was trying to count stitches and all that kind of stuff. So these are considered Marimekko socks. Marimekko is a Finnish design house that uses these kind of motifs in their fabrics, and so they're obviously not official or anything like that. It's not a paid pattern that she used, because that would be going against copyright and everything, but for personal use, people obviously make these up and have fun with them, and I think they're absolutely stunning. So they're different. There's similarities, but there's differences. So just incredible how much effort my mum put into these and these. I don't know. She's a bit of a genius, and considering that she hadn't knit socks up until I think it was about a year ago that she sort of got back into knitting socks. She'd been doing a lot of crochet for quite a few years, but she used to knit a lot, and she just hadn't focused on it for a while. She'd been sewing and crocheting, but she's definitely got the bug back, which I think I'm partly to blame for that, because she's seen me knitting socks. But I think it's great, and especially when I get some nice warm woolly socks that, to be honest, I don't know if I would have the patience to knit that when at the moment I'm very much on a garment kick. So I think my mum is awesome. And my final finished objects are 2 little spins. So we're currently running a very casual little spin along in the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group. So all you need to do is spin up 50 grams. So I think this was about 60 odd grams. That would qualify as an entry, and it's running until the end of April. And we have a braid of fibre from Skein Yarn that they kindly donated to us, up for grabs. So if you are a spinner and needing some inspiration to get your wheel going, then please check out the Ravelry group for all the details. I decided to clear off my wheel, all my bobbins. I had some leftovers that I'd sort of been spinning up onto bobbins and onto toilet roll holders and the toilet roll tubes, and this is sort of what I came up with. It's very much just different colours all muddled up together, and not too sure what I'm going to make with it yet, but this could be something fun for a little toy, because I think it would come up with some interesting stripes. Then I had a leftover, not a leftover, I had a fibre bump from Fondant Fibre, which had these purples and yellows, and I decided to just spin that up, like break it in 2, spin it up as a 2-ply and see how it turned out. This is a bit of a light fingering weight, whereas this one is more of a sport weight, and they'll go into my little hand spun yarn stash. So then it's on to the works in progress, and seeing as I'm chatting about spinning, I thought I'd continue with the spinning, but I have some more knitting to show you in a bit. This is some fibre that I've been spinning. It's an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon blend from Skein, and it's in the colourway Thunderstorm. And since I first tried a merino nylon blend, it's just been something that I've been gravitating towards. I know that some people like more woolly fibres and what have you. I don't know, this is woolly to me, but it's not sort of the straight off a sheep's back kind of wool. I find this super easy to spin, and it becomes very meditative, so I love sitting down at the wheel and just simply let it do its thing and watching the colours emerge. It has lots and lots of colours sort of jumbled up together, and all I've been doing is breaking off a section. Sometimes I split it in half, sometimes I just grab a chunk, and trying to manage my colours in some way. So this is the first 50 grams that I spun up, and there's obviously other colours underneath there, so I'm looking forward to when I get to ply it and seeing them all emerge. And I'm just at that point of thinking about, how do I spin up the second 50 grams? I have the option of spinning it the same way as I did this one and then plying them together, which will jumble up the colours, but I could end up with some slightly interesting combinations. Another option is to just continue spinning this onto here and then do a chain ply. And I'm sure that there was another option that I was thinking about. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue on with this bobbin, chain ply it, and then I'm going to end up with some kind of self-striping yarn, and it will give me some practice in chain plying where I try to control where the colour changes occur, because you're sort of essentially combining the same yarn on itself, and the colour change can sort of occur at various points. And I'm not explaining it very well, but anyway, it's something to play with, and this will, once I get this done, this will be 100 grams of yarn, which would have been 2 entries into the spin along if I was able to take part in my own. But I look forward to seeing what spinning everyone else is doing out there. We've already had some entries in the spinalong, and I look forward to seeing more. The next work in progress that I will share is the last one that I'm going to share, because I've got a couple of design projects on the way, but I'm not ready to share them yet. It's living in one of my big, large project bags. I'm currently out of large project bags in my Etsy shop. They've sort of been disappearing very quickly, quicker than I can make them, so I will be putting some more up soon. But if you have any fabric requests, then please pop me a note in Etsy and I'll see what I can do. This is my Carradine Hill jumper. This is a free pattern by Blacker Yarns, and I'm not using Blacker Yarns, so I feel a little bit guilty about that, but I had a quantity of yarn. It was a beautiful pattern, so I decided to use it. And this is how the body's looking. I'm knitting this with some Morris & Sons Estate 8-ply. It's Australian wool. It's processed overseas though. And this is the colourway Rustic Aubergine. And I bought this sweater quantity at the biannual or twice yearly sale just before Christmas, and I thought that I bought a good quantity of yarn. And I've knit with their yarn before, and I know that their balls are underweight, and I tried to compensate for that when I bought this yarn. And by underweight, this is a 50-gram ball, and I've been weighing every single yarn ball as I've been using it, and I've been ranging from 46 to 48 grams, so they're sort of missing 2 to 4 grams. Now I think what it is it's the air and all that kind of stuff that goes into when it gets processed. They sort of weigh it at one point, but it's different. But I think the yardage of 100 meters is probably what's on here. So they're probably, when they make the ball, they measure 100 meters out and then they cut it. So it may be underweight, but it should be the right yardage. Not entirely certain, but that's my guess, because pretty much every single yarn ball that I've ever bought of the Morris & Sons brand has been underweight. I'm hoping that my theory is correct, but I'm still worried that I'm going to run out of yarn, and I have been worried ever since I started this project. Based on the pattern, I shouldn't be, but based on the pattern project notes that I've been reading on Ravelry, people seem to use a bit more. But I decided to go ahead anyway. So I sort of, during the body, I was measuring how I was going for each sort of yarn ball, and yeah, I'm not entirely convinced. I have a feeling I may have to try to get a few more yarn balls of the same dye lot, which might be possible. Maybe they will have it if I contact them, or maybe I can find some on Ravelry. I have one more partial ball from a previous project in my stash, so I might see how close it is. I'll probably take some photographs of them side by side, put them into black and white, see if there's a difference. And if I'm only using that for, say, the ribbing on the collar, then it might not be too obvious if it's a different dye lot. I don't know, but this pattern is amazing. There's lots and lots of cables going on. There's a lot of concentration that needs to be had, but then there's also, once you sort of start getting into it, you sort of start knowing what you're doing where. So it's not something I would suggest a beginner cabler to try out, but I think once you've done a little bit of cabling, then you'd have no problems with it. And I've been knitting this whole thing without using a cable needle, using a technique of just popping the stitches off and holding onto them and switching them around. So it's going by a lot quicker than I expected it to, which is nice. I got that far with the body, and it looks a little bit short. It's going to go to high hip, and I'm going to be happy with that. but I'm trying to get the sleeves done to see how much yarn I'm going to have left, but I think I'm not going to be able to add any more to the body, but that's okay. I'm happy with it. I haven't tried it on. I should try it on. And then I might end up having to buy 4 more balls of yarn, but we'll see. So I have some sleeves and they look like this. I'm knitting the sleeves 2 at a time because they're knit the same way, and it's easier with the increases that I'm having to do and all the cabling. I figured that it was going to be easier to just do them 2 at a time, so I'm always doing the same thing on each round. They've got a few more inches to go. Yeah, they should be normal length sleeves. I don't think I could turn this into a sort of a 3/4 length sleeve or anything like that. I think it would look a little bit strange. So I'm just going to keep going until they're the right length, and then I'll see how much yarn I've got left. At the moment I've got 1 ball there. I've got 2 partials for the sleeves. I've got some various partials and 1 from the swatching, and then I've got the swatch itself. So when I knit the swatch, I didn't cut the yarn, so I can always unravel that one. It may be tight, but hopefully it all works out. And one thing with this particular yarn, I've used it, I haven't used the 8-ply on any kind of garments, but I've used the 4-ply, and I found that it felt a bit tight when I was knitting it, but once it's had a wash, it sort of relaxes and feels much nicer. So the same thing is happening. This feels quite dense and coarse, but this swatch that was washed, goes that way, is a lot more floppy, and it's not so floppy that it's going to lose all definition of the cables, but it will feel a lot more comfortable than what trying these sleeves on at the moment feels like. So yeah, so I think it's coming along pretty well. I will hopefully have it done by the end of the month, if not sooner, and that would mean that I'm up to 2 garments so far for this year. So my goal for this year is 6 sweaters in 12 months, so if I get 2 done by the end of April, then I'm pretty much on track. And I think the other sweaters that I'm going to do this year are possibly a little bit simpler than what this Bruntsfield vest and this jumper have been, so I may get a bit quicker as I go through the year. But I'm definitely looking forward to this Carradine Hill jumper getting finished, and it's definitely going to be one that I take with me to Bendigo. With this jumper, I've been using a new little tool that I ordered for myself. It's something that I've been wanting for quite a few years. I think I first saw it on the Little Bobbins Knits podcast probably 3 years ago or something, and I've been hunting around for it in Australia, and I think there's one shop that has it, but they didn't have it in the colour that I wanted. And I've regularly looked online at shops overseas, and it's an investment, but having been thinking about it for so long, I figured that it was time to get it, and it was my birthday week, and I admittedly ordered it about a month and a half ago, and it turned up much quicker than I expected, but it's been so handy. And it is my Circa counter. So I got the bento box, and it has a little rubber band that goes around it, and that's my Circa counter. And this is what it looks like. So it's got 3 different dials, and with it you can keep track of 3 different things within a pattern. So at the moment I have got the yellow one, which is keeping track of my row on the chart. The grey one is keeping track of my increases, and the blue one is keeping track of how many increases I've done. So I've only got a few more increases to do on the sleeves and then a little bit longer, and then I'll be ready to join them. It has these little gears, and it takes a little while to sort of get used to it, and I am still using I have the pattern PDF on my iPad, and I draw a rectangle around the chart, and I use that to move up and down through the chart. So I'm still keeping track on both, because I'm not convinced that I could only keep track with this, but I'm sort of learning it and really finding it useful. It's not a tool that every knitter needs, but I love it. Absolutely love it. I think the Grello and Gray company is in America. I don't know too much about what they're doing with these Circa counters, because as I've been keeping an eye on them, they haven't come up with new colours or anything like that in the last few years. So I don't know if they're just sort of selling the old stock still, or whether there are new things in the works. There's a few little quirks to this that because I'm tracking different things at different rates, sometimes I have to push these little counters. So I'm just going to remember I'm on 7 there. You sort of push it past the other one. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes to push it past, but I think it's genius, absolute genius as an invention and as a tool. So definitely think that more shops should sell Circa counters, because they're amazing. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to show. This is something that I learnt at the Adagio Mills mill tour that I went on a couple of years ago. And it's that when you have a ball of yarn like this, if you want to turn it into a flat cake, you just get it between your hands and you squish it. So you give it a little bit of a squish and it turns into a disc. I've been doing this with all of the yarn balls that I've been using, because I find that the yarn pulls from the center much easier. Now I'm probably going to fail miserably doing this, but for a center pull ball, just reach in the center, and okay, I got a little bit of a lump out of there, but it then pulls much easier. So what I tend to do is I then go and find the end out of this little lump, stuff the rest back in there, and keep going. It also means that the yarn just sort of sits in the bottom of my project bag and it doesn't go jumping around and swimming around in there. So I love doing that little squish trick and turning it into a bit more of a disc. So I hope that's helpful for some people. And I had one other acquisition, and it was that Ren and Ollie were doing a fibre update, so I couldn't help myself, and just love what Ren and Ollie do, both with their yarns and with their fibres. And I've spun with Ren and Ollie fibre before, so I got this one, which is the colourway Cat's Meow, and this is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So it's a bit more nylon than the skein one, but it's spun up just as nicely. I also got this colourway, which is Aquarium, and I think with the aqua colours in there, I may turn this into something for my mum. Not too sure yet, we'll see. And then this one, which is called Big Parade, and I realised that I'm spinning these very sort of peculiar, sort of mishmash, they're not necessarily peculiar, but they're mishmash coloured yarns or coloured fibres, and I find them fun. I think when I'm spinning, it's sort of meditative, but I want it to be exciting. The idea of just spinning the same colour over and over is it's just not something that I gravitate towards. And I haven't been spinning during the summer. I think it's been too hot. And now that it's cooling down, I'm definitely going to be getting a bit more use out of my spinning wheel. It's nice to keep the foot going and the hands going, and sort of not sitting quite as still as what knitting requires. So they're definitely going to bring some brightness into the winter when it pops around. And because I was placing an order anyway, I couldn't resist this. It's coming up darker on screen than what it is. I can't get it to... This is the 7 Seas colourway in Spin DK, and I can't describe that colour. It's just an amazing shade of bluishness, and it feels amazing, and it's going to be a hat. I might have to take a photo of this and pop it in on screen because I have to show you how gorgeous it is. It's delightful. I love the saturation in it. It's just a really, truly gorgeous colour. So I'm looking forward to using that sometime very, very soon because I think I'm going to need some new hats once the weather cools down. So then on to just some general chatter, and part of the reason why I haven't been podcasting is just that when it goes beyond 2 weeks, it becomes a little bit more difficult to try to remember what I've been doing, and I need to just sort of look back at things a bit more. And I've had a lot of random unexpected things occurring, and I planned a podcast one day and then something happens that I have to look after. So I really need to try to get myself back into a 2-week schedule, and I'm going to try to record one more episode mid-month and then another one at the start of May. So if I've now put that out there, hopefully I stick to that. The start of May one is definitely going to happen because that's when I will draw the prize winner for the spinalong. But hopefully I can get one more episode in before then, and then try to get back into routine because I love podcasting. I love being able to chat about the things that I've been working on and what I've been learning, and just sort of connecting with the community out there because it's pretty quiet out here. I'm just coming up to my 2-year anniversary. I think it's tomorrow of having moved out to the countryside, and I've been reflecting a little bit about that, about what I've managed to do in the past 2 years, and somehow I fill up my time and I don't necessarily get a huge amount done. So I think I just need to get out and explore a bit more and, I don't know, just ruffle life's feathers a little bit. I have been trying to keep my garden growing through autumn. It's still very summery, so I'm not having too many troubles with that at the moment. My golden nugget pumpkins decided to grow another batch, which I wasn't expecting, but that's great. I'll have more pumpkins. My zucchinis are still growing, and I'm managing to get some herbs on the go. And I've planted some seedlings so that I can hopefully create some kind of autumn-winter garden. But I'm thinking that I need to set up some raised garden beds because the soil here just isn't really cutting it. But how I actually fill those raised garden beds is a bit of a mystery, but I have to go and explore that and try to figure that out. My little car doesn't fit a trailer onto the back, so yep, I'm sure I'll figure something out. I have also been really busy with my Etsy shop, which has been fantastic. Thank you to everyone who has been popping in there and buying up bags and DPN holders and whatnot. I am definitely needing to get some more large bags in there because they sold out unexpectedly, suddenly, which is a good problem to have, but I feel bad when there aren't items of each size in the shop, so I will get that sorted out next week. And I've got some other little ideas that I'm working on for the shop, so they'll hopefully be happening pretty soon. So I've been busy behind the scenes, and sometimes it's been a bit hard to balance out the needing to grow the business versus podcasting, which as I said before, I just need to give myself a little bit of time to do the enjoyable things and not just always be trying to knuckle down and whatnot. So, but overall, I am definitely ready for autumn to kick in. I would like the temperatures to drop by about 10 degrees. It would be fabulous. I'm sure it's just around the corner. It is nice to have warm days, but I'm just looking forward to wearing more knitwear. So, and it would be nice if it rained, because we have definitely been lacking rain out here. So, which is sad, because yeah, the farms definitely need a bit of rain, and it would be nice not to have to water my garden every day. Anyway, I am now rambling, and this has turned into a very long episode, but I hope you enjoyed hearing about the things that I've been making. If you have any questions for me, pop them in YouTube down below or over in the Ravelry group, and I hope that you're having lots of fun with all your yarn crafts, and I'll see you soon.